we need to be thoughtful. We need to say to ourselves, what's the persuasive feature? What's the persuasive moment that's available to me, right? That will drive people to the thing that will best represent their value proposition, give them the best possible outcome from my product or service.
So I gave a quick introduction this morning. I think some of it bears repeating, but I know for me, how many of you guys went to college? Yeah, I guess most of us. I read a lot, studied in junk, made good grades, but pretty, except for ancient Greek. But there was, every time I was reading, books, I was reading them because I had to. And truly, that's kind of like every aspect of school up until that point. If I read a book, I read it because I had to. Somebody said, read this book, read it well, you will be tested. And so I remember walking into a communications class, same deal, went and bought a bunch of books, and thought it was the same thing. And then we finally got to this one particular book in the class, and I read it because I was told that in this particular unit you had to read chapters 1 and 2 or whatever, so I read chapters 1 and 2, and then I kept reading chapter 3 and chapter 4, and in basically one day I binge read this entire book. I'd never done that before in my life, right? And I said, this actually is helpful. This actually makes sense. This is actually useful. It was the first time, truly, and I think this is sad to say, that in my educational experience that I found something that was truly applicable to where I was in my life. And it was around that time that I was actually beginning to launch little websites on the internet. This was 1999, 2000, right? So I was like, this all makes sense. This can help me in so many ways. And that book was Influence, right? How many of you guys felt the same way when you read this book by this, some professor out of Arizona? You're like, wow, this is amazing, right? I mean, truly, I don't know if there's another book out there that more marketers could point to and say that book influenced me than this particular book. And it's a book that I went back and I read again and again and again. And then in this last year, Persuasion came out. I'm like, all right, but how do you wind up topping that? And I went ahead and bought it because if I'm not totally sure about a book, I'll buy the audio version of the book. And if it sounds good, then I'll go buy the real, the physical version so I can write and take notes in dog-eared pages. So we're driving out family trip to the Grand Canyon, listening to Persuasion. And I'm telling my wife, I was like, okay, pause. And I'm making her take notes as we're driving to the Grand Canyon, really beginning to bug her. And she's like, this is actually really, really good. This is way better than most of the crap that you make me listen to on our family trips. Like, I know. It's really, really, really great. Went back, read it again, and immediately began applying a lot of things. I'm actually, when we're done with the discussion, I'll send out some of the notes that I took from it and how it's impacted it. But to have Robert Cialdini here in the flesh after so many years of admiring his work is truly an honor and truly a special moment. I know we're all going to get a lot out of this time. But if you would please right now just join me, big round of applause for Dr. Robert Cialdini. There you go. No, we'll put him in the hot seat. Right. Here you go. You're in the hot seat in the middle.
Okay.
Not many people get to snuggle up between Perry and I. Mostly because they don't want to. And so here we go.
Happy to be here. I've got one.
Oh, you do? Okay, great.
Yeah, I bring my own.
Nice. Thank you. So I know we're going to have the opportunity to talk and have some conversations about some things, but I know that you also have some examples and those types of things prepared. I guess, would you like to start with that and have that kind of kick off discussion?
Maybe just talk about the idea of persuasion, first of all, and how it's different from the material in Influence. Influence, which is about, I'm going to go back here.
If you hit the black one, it makes it go dark.
You're in trouble now.
Okay, so there we go. Influence is about what you put into your message. What do you load into your content that leads people toward assent? Right? Persuasion is about what you put in the moment before you send your message that makes them receptive to the element of your content that you think is going to move them in this direction. So, in influence, there are various principles, social proof, authority, scarcity. Let me give you an idea of what persuading them to be focused on one or another of those principles can do. There was a A/B test that was done by Royal Caribbean Cruises, right, during the 2016 holiday season. Every one of their former passengers who received one or another of those email were told about a time-limited offer. Scarcity. You could only get it for a certain time. Scarcity was the unique feature of that message that they wanted to leverage for success. And let me show you what the two programs, or the two messages looked like. One of them had a pair of ticking clock emojis in the subject line. So before they ever got to the content, before they ever were introduced to the idea of scarcity, there was a message, there was an image there that focused them on the idea of scarcity before they got there, right? This message, the one with the emojis, produced a several 100% increase in profit. How could that be? How could that be? What was it about those emojis, right? Here's what it was. Something about the human condition, right? When we are focused on a particular idea, a particular concept, or a particular factor, we automatically give more weight to any information that is related to that idea subsequently. We prioritize any related information over all the rest of the information that we then receive, as long as we still have that idea, that focal idea in consciousness. Right? And when we see ourselves prioritizing information, we assume that it must be important. And when we assume that it must be important, this idea, right, we search for it. And when we search for it, right, because it's important, and we encounter information that is congruent with it, now we want to choose anything that provides that factor, that provides that concept to us in our decision-making process. Here's a study that makes the case. Online furniture store. They sent randomly half of their visitors to a landing page with fluffy clouds in the wallpaper, the background wallpaper. They sent the other half to a landing page that had small coins, pennies, in the background. Right? Let me show you. Here's the clouds.
It's beautiful.
Right? It's awful. Clearly awful, right? Great. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter. Clouds. The other half got pennies, all right? Now, those individuals who encountered clouds in the background wallpaper of their website, landing page, assigned more importance to comfort in the sofas that they were about to buy. They then searched the website for comfort-related features of the sofas and ultimately chose to purchase more comfortable furniture. those who saw the pennies assign more importance to price, searched the website for cost information, and chose to purchase less expensive furniture. Whatever was brought to consciousness first, to their attention, where they had a focused attention on this, became more important, became necessary to pursue, and became the standard for deciding what to do next. Now, here was the interesting thing about this, because it involves not just the effectiveness of this strategy, it involves the ethics of it. When these individuals were asked, by the way, did that wallpaper make any difference in your choices? The clouds, the coins? They laughed. They said, of course not. Of course not. I'm a freestanding entity. I decide what to choose based on who I am, what my preferences are. What they didn't recognize is who they were as a purchaser, a cost-oriented buyer, a comfort-oriented buyer, was altered by what they saw first. So this means that if we use persuasion, not only will it fly under the radar, because it flies under the radar, we have a special ethical burden to be sure that what we present to people first, which makes them focus differently on aspects of the next information they receive,